Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, I wanted to talk today about how I think polygamy helps women survive. And one way that it does that, bismillah, is that it allows women beyond the age of 30 who have children to be able to protect their private parts and have a chance at getting someone who is attractive and has financial means and who is serious about their religion. If you think about how few opportunities there are for Muslim men who are upon their deen available in the West, you begin to see that that's going to present a big problem for sisters. They either have to end their bloodline because they can't find someone who is going to be monogamous and accept them and raise another man's children, or they're going to have to slave away at work, and then the daycares and the public school system will really raise their children along with the internet, and she won't have that feminine glow because she'll usually be burnt out, exhausted, and not have any energy left for herself at the end of the day. If she becomes a second, third, or fourth wife and her husband provides for her and tends to her needs and retires her from the workforce, she has a lot more time to recline in her sort of feminine energy, be with her child, possibly have more children, and her private parts are going to be protected, and she doesn't have to worry about the struggle of getting through those urges. Because a lot of feminists, what they won't tell you is that if they're being celibate, they're taking edibles, having toys, watching adult content, and their souls are really quite polluted. Whereas if you are obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to really work on those urges and try to be as halal as possible. Everyone will slip up, but the point is that you're trying. And you want to make life easier on yourself. And one way that you can make life easier on yourself is accepting polygamy, because it'll help you to survive. Now, there are, I think personally, an abundance of women and not enough good men. And so there's lots of competition. And believe it or not, women have no problem, many women have no problem taking your man, alright? Tempting your man. I mean, the amount of women who will willingly sleep with a married man is alarmingly high. And men are tempted more than ever now because there's apps that'll help you find someone. There's literally buildings you can go to, brothel houses, strip clubs, unlimited adult content online for free. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. So in the digital realm, there's an abundance of women. In the physical realm, as in, let's say you're in California, there's literally women on the street. You just gotta pull up. There are strip clubs all over San Francisco. Everywhere. Okay? And then there's also just women in general who will sleep with you if they get drunk at a bar. Muslim men are not supposed to be in those places, but my point is that it is fast, cheap, and easy for men to cheat. And this means that good women who are not as, like, let me put it this way. You see a woman who's covered, she's not using her beauty as bait to get a man. The lewd woman is fully able to entice the male gaze and oftentimes gets the attention and satisfaction of that male. That's why it's very difficult for men to lower their gaze, is because they're very visual creatures. Very visual. Okay? So if a Muslim woman is staying in her home and she doesn't have a wali, she's living in a place where she's never even seen another Muslim man, this is quite difficult. So if she goes into the digital realm and is able to find someone who's going to be a safe husband, and he'll accept her as the third wife or something like that, then she survives. It's really strange how the feminists will tell a woman that monogamy is always going to work for her. And monogamy works when you're beautiful and young. When your beauty starts to go downhill, men still crave the young, beautiful women, and it is very hard for them. And what's really strange is that women have forgotten the survival angle because they often think the government will always be there. Hurricane Helena, however you want to pronounce it, just wiped out many homes in North Carolina. Now, you can be on your high horse of monogamy and say, you know what, I don't want to be a second, third, or fourth wife and get out of this flooded area. You know, I'm going to sit in this flooded waters, and I'm just going to hope that one guy will accept me at 35 with 3 kids, 2 kids, 5 kids, and, you know, he'll come along and he'll be super wealthy and have the body of Brad Pitt, you know, something like that. And you begin to see that these women have unrealistic standards. Because men were, I think, majority always polygamous. They just hid it from their wives. I really do, like kings, you would say, like, with one woman, it's very difficult. You know? It's super difficult. Men with wealth and status. And if you further think about it, it is quite selfish for a woman to expect a wealthy man to just be with her. I think that's very odd. He has wealth. He's allowed to help better the lives of 3 other women. But you rather those women remain in abject poverty because you're very selfish. And I find this quite odd. And then you find out that a lot of these men, they still go around trying to save women, and they still will do charity and stuff, but there are so many sugar babies, they call them, or friends with benefits, mistresses, you know, secret wives, and you're like, okay, so these women know they need to survive, and they go after married men because married men represent stability. And it's fascinating when you look at, there's been some studies done and research about when a man puts on a wedding ring, he actually gets more women coming on to him than when he doesn't have it. And you'll notice that when there's free mixing at work, a lot of women have no problem sleeping with their married boss. Now this is haram, zina. I'm pointing out that women are fully capable of understanding polygamy. But for some reason, when it comes to being a lawful, open wife, they shame it. And then they lie to themselves, pretending that monogamy is the norm, when in reality, if that was true, men would not want to look at adult content online. If you look at the statistics with how many men, married men, are watching adult content, and who have committed adultery, and who, when they're in the shower, how they fantasize about other women, you would begin to see that monogamy isn't the norm, and it's actually very difficult for men. It is a trial for men. And by men being polygamous, this helps women to survive. Because the one woman who she may still have her looks at 35, and she's got 2 kids, and she's a divorcee, and she wants to marry, you know, let's say a 28-year-old engineer, or a 28-year-old influencer who has money or something. Or he's a trust fund person. It's unfair to tell that young man, you gotta end your bloodline and go with this woman, and maybe she'll give you another child or not. And see, and then, when the fertility angle comes in, feminists will then shame those men for wanting fertile young women. When in reality, if she would get over herself and accept polygamy, she would see that polygamy allows her to be a wife and still allows him to continue his bloodline. And then everybody wins. He gets to have more children, she gets provided for, and doesn't have to work at a dead-end job or, Allah forbid, prostitute herself, and she gets to have the joy of having masculine energy around. Right? It takes a very mature woman to sit down and say, polygamy literally helps Oh, very good sparkling water, Topo Chico. It literally helps women to survive. And men have always done this, it's just been more hush-hush in Western culture. Think about it. France bans men from doing paternity testing, and they put all these things on men to make it seem like, hey, we got everything under control, we're so high and mighty. But how many times does, let's say in cinema, you'll see male adultery be very flagrant and open? And even in the natural world, you're like, there's the black widow spiders who eat their mate, the praying mantis who eat their mate, and you're like, why does that exist? But then you look at roosters and lions, and just the more dominant males having the right to breed with more females. And you're like, if men have multiple wives, the birth rates can bounce back really quickly. This is a survival instinct. I really do believe that. And so, I think it's cruel to tell women that they should get with a man who can't have kids with them, and that he should fund their life and fund their lifestyle, and that he should say goodbye to having the opportunity to have children. Now, you could have it to where a divorced man with kids and a divorced woman with kids get married. That can work, no doubt. I'm not denying there's other examples, but the fact that sugar babies, escorts, and all those types of women get with married men shows you that men do desire variety. And polygamy makes it, or polygyny, how you want to put it, makes it more honorable. It makes it more open, because remember, your marriage has to be open. People have to know about it. We read that in the concise presentation of fiqh section on marriage. Okay? And so, there's no muta, garbage marriage, no strings nikah crap. Talking about a real marriage, not something that's fake and a loophole that degenerate red pillars created. But a lot of women, while they are young and pretty, they think, I'll never accept polygamy because my ego is this, I'm so special, I'm the beautifulest woman in the whole world. But if their circumstances change, they have 2 children, and for some reason the husband dies, or he leaves her, or she leaves him, and she wants to be with her kids, and she doesn't want to have to slave away at a job all day, and then here comes a decent looking man who will take her on as a 3rd, 4th wife and provide her lifestyle. How many women would really say, I'd rather work all day in a 9 to 5, 6 days a week, not seeing my kids, not having time to be beautiful, having a long commute, being alone in my apartment with no man, kids not having a father figure, because I'm too good to accept polygamy. When you can accept it, and then be with your kids, have him pay your bills, and then you have time to be beautiful, and time to do other things, gain knowledge, and stuff like that. What's really going to benefit your health and your spiritual progress over time? You look at some of these women who live in compounds, and they have space, it's really nice. Like, there's men who have land where you can ride horses, you may do some chores around the farm, but your life is a different type of leisure. See, it's a mistake to glorify work life. It really is. And a lot of these CEO boss babes types, they sleep around with countless men. They're not being celibate and not watching adult content and staying sober. These women cope with their loneliness by sleeping around, using toys, paying male gigolos. Yes, those are real, male prostitutes. And they are not really happy. I remember reading lots of reports, you can look this up, how many women would cry after using items upon themselves, and how they would feel weird. I remember Chelsea Handler even she's a gross lady, but she made a joke about it. And you're like, that's not sustainable. You can't replace a living man with a plastic item, silicone item. Having a man around the home is something that is rejuvenating. And when some women see that a man is capable of getting other women, that's almost like an aphrodisiac. You have to be wise, is what I would tell you. A lot of women who tell you never to accept polygamy, they're not going to help you with your bills. They're not going to watch your kids. They're not going to change diapers. They're not going to give you money. They're not going to do nothing for you besides say, you go girl, go to that job. They're not, while you're watching the clock at work tick and you're doing some crappy customer service job that's self-loathing and your uniform is ugly and it plays this stupid music on a loop all day and your knees are aching and your lower back's like, ugh, and you're thinking about your kids. These feminists, these liberal Muslim chicks who tell you never to accept polygamy, they're not coming to rescue you. They're not going to pay your rent. They're not going to do nothing for you besides just give you virtual high fives. And so polygamy helps you as a woman to survive. Mentally, you won't have to be on the hamster wheel. Okay, you can have a side hustle and do things online from home and be with your kids, and that's way better for you. It's fascinating how so many men are polygamous, and yet they lie to their wife. No, I only want you forever, and I only desire you. They say this because they have to. No man's gonna, if he doesn't want to lose you, so he'd rather lie to your face, and then, he knows the secrets himself. A lot of husbands cannot be 100% honest with their wives because they don't have the maturity and the emotional stability to handle raw, blunt truths. This is something interesting to examine. And how many women, like, if you look how America, last time I checked, the stats were 13 million single moms. And then single moms will say, I can do it all by my damn self. But then you hear a woman say, I'm a single mom, I can't afford this, please cut the price. So which is it? You want me to see you as empowered, or you want a pity party? And then they'll say, no, I don't need no man. What's wrong with saying you need a man? And then you do see another class of women, of type of woman, who they fully understand that men want multiple women and they'll be a side chick. Think of the side chick phenomenon, which happens in America. These are women who won't marry those men, and those men won't marry those women, but they use each other for intimacy. And the wife is none the wiser. Her husband's telling her, oh, I got eyes for you, but meanwhile he's doing something bad. And since we don't have stoning for adultery, and there's no punishment for adultery, we have to see that it's more rampant. And so halal should be made easier. And polygamy makes life easier for men and helps more women to survive. Because think about the Muslim woman who will say, that woman in Palestine, she doesn't deserve to have a husband. She's got 2 kids and she's totally destitute. Just give her a bag of beans, some rice, and have her on her way. She doesn't deserve to be married and be moved to, a nicer living standard. Just send her humanitarian aid. It's a weird form of mate guarding. And women can never mate guard men. It's just not something possible. The more women try to mate guard husbands, it's like the more possessive and controlling and jealous they become, the more annoying they become to their husbands. This is something that I've noticed. Men will mate guard women, right? Don't dress like that. Don't free mix with men. But when women become catty, they try to be very possessive of their husbands, it always backfires. They want to look in his phone. They say, where were you going? Who is that? They snoop around in his car, seeing if they can find something. There's even some women who they want to, if he comes home late from work, they're like, I need to smell you. There's all types of things women do. And this insecurity is a pure sign that they know men naturally are not monogamous. They're filled with paranoia. And that paranoia makes them spiritually sick. And so if you're more mature and understand that polygamy is a natural order of things for men, and you can calm your anxiety down, and you can be open to the permissible, lawful, pure form of which is marriage, then your life becomes a lot easier, and you will survive more mentally by being more mature. You'll financially survive because the thing is, some women, they start to get sick, and those men say like, this is something mean now. They're gonna be like, I have to be with this woman. She's got health problems. I'm not sexually attracted to her anymore. She's not giving me the affection I need. And should I divorce her after 10 years, right? Let's just say something happened. That's a real thing. When he can have endless 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds coming at him who are more enthusiastic. They are acting like how you used to act. And see, he's supposed to say no to all of those opportunities and just stay with you when you're neglecting him. And a lot of women, once they get married, intimacy fades out the window. So now you want this man to think about this burden right here. Not be in any form, like he can't have multiple wives. Obviously, we know he's not supposed to watch adult content. Not supposed to see a stripper. Not supposed to buy a hooker or whatever. He has all this burden on him. Lower his gaze. Like, oh, it's really hard for him. And then he comes home to a cold, neglectful, bitchy wife. And you want him not to divorce you when you neglect him in so many ways. I'm not saying men don't neglect their wives. What I'm pointing out here is that polygamy will help you survive, because let's say you don't want to have intimacy with all the time. And you obviously don't want him going into these very bad areas doing something completely haram. And you're like, you know what? You can get a second, third, or fourth wife. You don't have to give him permission. He doesn't need your permission. But I'm just saying that you mentally are letting him know that you're going to accept it so that he doesn't have to hide it. Life becomes more smooth and helps you survive, so he doesn't divorce you, because he's able to satisfy that need with someone else when he may love some things about you and dislike other things about you. Where he doesn't feel trapped and with a ball and chain. It's something quite interesting. Because women, it's interesting. We lose our beauty faster than men lose their ability to attract women. Because money can make men handsome for a long time. Al Pacino. Okay, and taking Cher, like I've seen feminists be like, Cher and Madonna, they have young boyfriends. That's a fetish. And it's not the norm. And it's really quite gross. And the way those women act, behave, use drugs, shaking their butts, that's not a role model. And that's really gross. And those are Madonna is an open occultist. You know? So I don't know why any person would be like, you can get married older. Now, the Prophet, peace be upon him, had Khadijah. She passed away, and then he had other wives. And Sauda gave up some of her days to Aisha. So you can see some really interesting examples. And from my knowledge, Ali ibn Abi Talib, may Allah be pleased with him, he was monogamous. But what I've learned with Fatima, when she passed away, he had other wives, right? And Ali ibn al-Walid had multiple women as well. So if you just look at this, you're like, should we be mature, or should we lie to ourselves and think that, you know, your husband will only desire you 100%. He'll never imagine anyone else, never desire anyone else, forever. This is a delusion. And so, if your goal is to, what the real sisterhood, if it was real, would say we want women to survive. The government doling it out is not going to work, because the government can't replace a husband in your bed. It's not the same. Getting a welfare check is not the same as having a husband. And America did this experiment with the projects, the welfare projects. And single moms who didn't remarry, a lot of their kids joined gangs or went to prison. So obviously the experiment was already been done that money can't replace a man. We've seen this already. And you can't really cite Obama, like, oh, Obama was raised by a single mom, therefore, you know, your kid can become a president too. Now his destiny is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the children need a father figure. And then if you deny them a father figure because you're too good to be a second, third, or fourth wife, they're going to look to the internet usually for role models, and that's going to be really off. And oftentimes they look up to non-Muslims, and then now what? Think about how your life could be really well if there's a very nice, let's say someone who has land in Alabama, Texas, Alaska, whatever. There's like Ohio, Idaho, Wyoming, places where you could actually have land, and there's this area for you, and then there's another area for the other wife, and he's built you like within the compound territory, like on the acreage. Your area, you get fresh eggs, fresh milk. You're in the mountains, you're not in a city dealing with the drama. You're not getting bitched at by a manager, and you get to wear the Islamic clothing, so you get to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas in a corporate job, you're going to have to usually dress and put on a lot of more makeup and free mix with men and fall into sin more easily. So polygamy allows you to avoid sin, allows you to be closer to your deen because a man is providing you with everything you need so that you can focus on prayer, raising children, enjoying your feminine energy, and not dodging homeless people on the bus on your way to your job that you're going to be at 6 days a week until you die. What's going to make you feel more fulfilled? And then these same women who say, I don't want polygamy, I'm going to hope for this monogamous guy, and he'll never ever desire another woman. And some women, hold on, they will get with a guy, they find out he's watching adult content, they want a divorce. Now you're 3 times divorced. You got children now, they've lost a stepdad because you couldn't accept that men fall into this kind of visual sin, and you need to help them and work through it. It's just another way that women lie to themselves that men desire multiple women. You have to have a threshold. Think of the women in the past. There's a threshold. They were tough. They were enduring. You can be a boss babe and do it all on your own, but know the route that you're going. Accept and don't expect no pity for the lifestyle you chose. If a brother will provide for you, it's gonna be way easier in your life. Way easier. And so there has to be more people talking about polygamy in a positive way so that it can be done. And let's look at this guy, Dan Bilzerian. He travels sometimes with 12 women. All these women accept that they share him. That's really fascinating, isn't it? They get to have the best food, the nice things, and they have a soft life, and they get to look like really pretty. Or you can be burnt out, looking miserable, failing, brittle under your body, and having some job stocking shelves at Home Depot or something like that. What would you really rather enjoy? Why would you let your jealousy prevent you from living your best life? Isn't that weird? You would allow jealousy to put you in financial strain, into mental misery, and deny you a softer life. The harder the life the woman has, the less beautiful she becomes, the more exhausted she becomes, the more mean she becomes. There's very few women that can still look soft and beautiful being in a destitute position and just say Alhamdulillah. I think Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, was one of those women. But today, you have to examine, how many women would want to live destitute without having a man around them? And you will notice, just start noticing these things. There'll be a single woman who's a barista. She wants a man. She's tired of this job. She wants to have a man provide for her. Where are all the good men at? Let's say you've put on some weight, or you're being more mean to your husband, and she's being nice to him, smiling at him when he gets his coffee. Little things add up. Women hunt We cannot forget that. Okay? And if you're a boss babe who's like, I'm gonna change my husband's like I changed my shoes, this doesn't work. And you see all these women on these apps complaining about it. Oh, I can't find a man, you know. And then you see all these men now. You know what? I'm not gonna take on someone else's kids. We never really saw this phenomenon as much because single motherhood was lower in the past. Now it's much more higher. And we're seeing the truth. And a lot of women shun themselves from the truth. Polygamy helps those women get a husband. There's nothing wrong with sharing a husband. See, American culture will say, oh, it's sister wives, cults, all this, all that. But then they push pop stars like Cardi B, Rihanna, Beyonce, Britney Spears in the 90s, Christina Aguilera, women who dress lewdly, Janet Jackson. They want your husband to sit and watch these women dance. Okay? That's normalized. It's legal to have strip clubs. That's normalized. Your husband having a whiskey and watching a woman who's more beautiful than you take off her clothes and he throws money at her. That's normalized. But being a second wife and living on a compound or a farm or having a separate apartment, that's just too much. That doesn't make any sense at all. The thing is that women, they turn to sex when they want to survive so many times. When a woman wants to survive, she knows she has a tool and a weapon between her legs. And women have always used that to get a man to survive. Because that is an easier, faster way to survive than working at Walmart as a cashier for minimum wage and then taking welfare benefits. And then in some of these welfare housings, I remember in the 90s, you weren't allowed to have a man live with you. So the government actually will cut off your benefits once you get a man because they expect the man to pay for that. And so if you look at it, the feminists will just say, we'll tax everyone more so that we can have these women stay single and have more fatherless homes. They don't encourage marriage. And if you're telling young men, 21-year-olds, 25-year-olds, they have to marry single moms and they see her age, that she may not be able to have more kids, you're telling them your bloodline must end. So polygamy is the system that allows those men to have children, allows more Muslim children to be born, and allows women another chance at marriage when their children are a financial burden upon whomever they marry. And you win no matter what. You just have to get over the jealousy. See, a feminist witch will tell you, be jealous. But then, they say, oh, be jealous, don't let him have another wife. But then they tell your husband to watch women who dress like Cardi B and have vulgarity. They say, the progressives especially, decriminalize luring for sex. I shared that bill that Gavin Newsom signed not too long ago on my community page. So the feminists will say, no. You have no right to stop women from selling their bodies to men, but we have to prevent women from marrying men and having multiple wives. Right? Doesn't that make no sense at all? The feminist makes the sin and the temptation for your husband easy, and then shames men for wanting to have wives who they provide for, who they care for, who they're responsible for, who they'll be accountable for on the day of judgment. They shame that. So beware of those who don't realize that polygamy helps the women survive. Okay? Because to pretend that you don't want a man, that having the blessing of a man around isn't something real, then you're just lying to yourself. And how many women in the past, I think about this, in the 17th century, their husband dies, right? And he dies in the war, right? When there was when the Revolutionary War, Civil War, now they're war widows, they got kids. And was hard for them to remarry because these men are like, there's a beautiful bombshell woman who doesn't have stretch marks and doesn't have the marks of children on her body, and she wants to marry me. So who do I choose? The woman who's older with kids or the woman who's younger with no kids? I'm going with the younger. Okay? And so this is a raw thing. So if he's able to have multiple options, like, okay, you'll be my third wife, and then I'll have this other wife, then you're like, okay, we all win. I'm provided for, I have a man, my private parts are protected, and we're doing halal, and this is more healthy for everyone involved. People who attack polygamy don't attack the adult entertainment industry for what it does. And I find this weird. And if they do, then they still pretend that men never desire other women. And that men are somehow supposed to just walk through the earth like this. Meanwhile, these women are hunting. Like, they're just hunting. They're at nightclubs, they're walking on the street, like, you know, I'm shocked at how some of the high school girls dress. And I'm like, how can these boys even pay attention in school? This is crazy. You know? And then some of these women, you don't even know, like, are they doing OnlyFans? Like, the way she's dressed, and it's like, this is a crazy world we have. So immodesty is normalized, and it's gonna stay because the secular liberal atheists. But you expect the man never to slip. And if he does slip, then you want to divorce him. And it's easier for him to remarry than it is for you. It's something so fascinating. Do the mental exercises, but it's really hard, quite difficult, for women to have some blunt truths told to them. I think it's way more mature if you sit down with the information and process it and say, like, I may not like it, but it is true. Cheating is wrong. Polygamy is halal. Polygamy isn't cheating. The amount of men who cheat on their wives and who watch adult content is extremely high. This is right in our faces as women, that it is a trial for men to be monogamous. And if we understand that fact, we can change our behaviors. You know? At least I heard a gold digger once say, all men cheat. And at first you can be like, well, no, actually, some don't. But instead of having a knee-jerk reaction, you gotta see it from her angle, and you're like, We know that there's men who won't cheat. May Allah bless them when they're with the monogamy until death. But they do look at haram, and they like it, and they hope for it when they go on social media. And it's social media will allow you to post the raunchiest content, okay, but will censor political speech. So if the social media algorithms are working against your husbands, gays, what makes you think that monogamy is easy and normal for men? See, monogamy had to be forced on men. It had to be forced on them. Islam brought men a mercy because it said you can have 4 wives. Now, the concubinism, I don't really understand that yet. It's above my level, but what I do know is that you can have 4 wives. And that he has to treat them well. Otherwise, he'll show up on the day of judgment with one side drooping, right? If he favors one more than the other. But how many women they're lied to by other women, you know? But then you'll find out that a lot of these women who do stripping, they see married men all the time of all classes, doctors, lawyers, you know, because they get to know their customers. And their wives have no idea where their husbands are. And you're like, okay, haram is easy, but halal is made hard. We have to get over our egos and jealousy and see that polygamy will help women survive. Can you have more mercy for your Muslim sister than your own jealousy? Think about it. Now, you don't want to be ghetto and say, like, I don't care if he cheat on me, as long as he don't bring me no disease. I remember there's a lot of those trashy women who try to appeal to the red pill men. That is not what I'm saying. Polygamy is honorable because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sanctioned it as halal. And nothing Allah has made halal can be shamed. Remember that. If you find it shameful, it's because you are possessive and jealous, and that's something you have to fix. And will you let your jealousy pour you into a life of misery, or will you allow yourself to get over your jealousy and accept the way men are? Or do you want sweet lies told to you by your husband? You know, spying is haram. But if women knew how much their men looked at other women and desired them, if there was like a sheet, a number, or a scale, they'd be like, what? That's a lot. You know, because beauty is everywhere on this planet. I mean, women are fit enough for men. And so, it's very hard for them. So if someone's denying, like, my husband loves me and only me, he only wants me until the day he dies, this is your ego. This isn't reality. You're in a delusion. Why as a woman would you take advice from a woman who's deluded herself? Think about that. Hard facts. Tough thing to think about. But I'm a philosopher, so I think about all kinds of stuff. But be mindful, sisters. Would you want your daughter to be like working in a factory, a sweatshop, making shoes? Grinding away? Or would you want if she had the opportunity to become a third wife for a man of means and have a leisurely life with high quality food and less stress, you would tell her don't do it? Think about that. Private parts have to be protected. They have to be protected. The only way you can do that is with a man. And why would you tell women to not accept polygamy and think that it's not going to affect them in an alchemical sense? Like, as I said earlier, the energy you get from men, from your husband, it's like you drink it up. It's a rejuvenating force. You like looking at them. Especially if he's in shape. You know? He's looking good, he smells good. Brings you a nice latte, some flowers. Or your favorite pastry or something, whatever. Gives you some money to buy something. Even if it's something like $20, you can still get a nice loaf of, a nice baguette, whatever it is. That romantic means. How can you deny that just because you can't get over your jealousy? You're holding yourself back. You know? A lot of women, I think, when you're not told rough truths by seasoned women who know the realities, you hurt your own self. It's like you're riding a bike and then you stick a twig through the spokes and it gets stuck and you fall on the ground and you say, oh, why did this happen to me? You did it to yourself. There's a way out. A way away from sin, from loneliness. There's a way to become more feminine and happy and spiritual. And if polygamy offers you that route, take it. Take it. But women, ingratitude and jealousy are something that destroy us. I mean, I really have a lot of admiration for these men more and more who are able to have multiple wives, and they're all fine. They're getting along, and you're like, good for them, man. I'm glad those sisters are protected. And I'm glad he has his needs met. You know? Something to think about. But I know already that feminist hijabis, they rather have these lies. But I hope, inshallah, there's going to be one sister at least who watches this video and thinks, you know what? I can see your point. I can understand your perspective. You're beautiful and young right now. It's all declining. 18, 25, golden. But you can't stop time. You're 34. You're hitting 36. Wait, do you want to be, like, if you're 40, do you really not want to ever touch a man again until you die? What? Sometimes I think, oh, if I was 50 and I was a widow or something, maybe I wouldn't remarry, I'd just focus on knowledge. But then I realize, if you live to be 90, how many years is that without I being able to hug a man? Not have male affection. That's a long time. Oh my gosh. You know. That's rough. Rough. And so the only way I would be able to remarry is if I found someone, oh sure, he's older, he has, maybe he's a widow or he's divorced, he has kids already, sure. But I would be totally open up to polygamy if I was an old single person, because as long as you have a man, that's great, because men are a prize. Men add to your life. And if a man isn't adding to your life, well, then you just attracted and picked and qualified for the wrong man. Think about it, sisters. It's hard though. There's a knee-jerk reaction. But think about it. Really think about it. Examine it. Let me know what you think. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you'd like to support my work and read more about what I write, you can go to www.subscribestar.com/Milahan Archive. Hope to see you there.